Studying in foreign universities is always presented with good opportunities for children or aspirants in India. I have with me, people from the Windsor University, the Dean, Mr. Heiss, as well as Dr. Chris, because a lot of Indian students who are interested in studying engineering outside the country will now have the opportunity to do so in a Canadian public university, Windsor. And I would like to speak to them about what it has for both the Canadian nation as well as we send our students there, and how can India avail the best opportunities there are in engineering. So thank you so much for speaking with us. So my first question is, of course, how do Indian students benefit from studying at Windsor when it comes to the engineering programs?
So I think the first thing to keep in mind is the quality of the degree that they get. It is world recognized. It is from an established public university in Canada. And that degree will allow them to go anywhere in the world and have that credential recognized. So that's number one. Number two, I think it's the benefit of interacting with other students from different nationalities. So when we look at our international students interacting with our domestic students, it really is a level of collaboration. It broadens everybody's perspectives, and it really enhances that education that the students get.
Since you're the dean of the engineering courses there, what is the range of pedagogy or the courses that students can look at pursuing? You were talking about environment being one of the very core courses at Windsor.
Yeah, so we have three departments within engineering. The first one is civil and environmental. So we have degrees both in civil and the environmental program. I'm more biased to environmental, as that's my background. But we also have mechanical engineering, which has industrial engineering, and then an electrical and computing engineering. So we have a good breadth of programs that the students can actually take, and these are programs that are sought after by industry. So once they graduate, there are job opportunities afterwards.
Just speaking about job opportunities, because that happens to be the very important aspect of why an aspirant from India would like to go and study abroad. What are the kind of broad contours that are presented as an option for students after they finish their post-graduation from Windsor?
Sure. So after post-graduation, students are eligible for a 3-year work permit. Now, that work permit allows them to travel anywhere in Canada to find a job. Those jobs will vary depending on where their degree is from. It could be in the automotive, electric vehicle sector. It could be in sustainable engineering in terms of buildings. It could be in environment. You name it. The world is their oyster. They can go wherever they can find that job in Canada.
I'd also like to speak to Dr. Chris. Dr. Chris, how do you think, because you're in charge of enrollments, what would be most beneficial, from taking Indian students to Canada? What is there in it for Canada?
Well, I think what's in it for Canada is about talent. Once again, we have bright learners that are wanting to come to Canada to get a great education, but they also are actively contributing to our research enterprise. They're contributing to our economy. They're contributing to innovation. And they're also gaining experience in Canada, also potentially to come back home to be able to contribute to the Indian economy there as well through all those great experiences, the hands-on learning, and also cooperative education.
Apart from, just having, a post-graduation in engineering, what would the aspirant need to do to get, into this course? So would the language proficiency tests apply? Just give us a, update on that.
So students that are wanting to go do a graduate program in Canada need to complete a 4-year degree from an established Indian institution. They provide an IELTS, a TOEFL, a Duolingo, whatever language test they would need to meet. And then they are able to be eligible for admissions there as well. We have multiple intakes and flexible programming and options for students. So we met during our travels with many Indian students that are in their last semester here and have already started their Canadian journey there as well.
I also want to understand how many Indian students are you actually teaching at the moment?
So on campus, we have 18,000 students in total. 28% of them are international. And in the Indian diaspora is about 3,200 of them in total.
All right, That's a big number in itself. And just wanting to understand, does Canada's immigration law at the moment allow for, this kind of intake of students? Because from where we see it, even the Canadian university, and this being a public university, would look at, people who are in the highly skilled or high skilled categories. So how does the immigration law even help facilitate a work visa, for example, for a few years, even if after that the student wants to return back home?
So I think if you look at the Canadian labor market, we're looking for highly skilled individuals. So those are engineers, business students, and data analytics, and those type of programs, computer science. And so therefore, by having a master's degree from an established institution, that's like a gateway into those type of employment opportunities. If students are employed during their postgraduate work period for at least a minimum of a year, they're eligible to apply for a permanent residency and elect to stay in Canada if they would like to. And the other benefit about the Canadian immigration program, the international student program, is that they can go anywhere in the country. And they may elect to be in Windsor, a smaller market, or they may go try to seek employment where they have an auntie potentially out in British Columbia. They can go anywhere. There's that flexibility there.
So then they can work in any part of Canada they would want to.
Absolutely.
Also, looking at the current political situation there in Canada and relations with India, how safe is it for students to come and study in Canada right now?
So the geopolitical climate is a political issue. Safety has never been a concern in Canada. You know, Canada is an incredibly safe country, very diverse and tolerant there. We've invited students to come to open houses and communications on campus, and we've asked students if they feel safe, and absolutely they do. And so they appreciate that, mostly compared to other markets too.
Specifically mentioning, the kind of hate crime incidences that take place in the US a lot, and Australia and other countries. Does Canada offer that kind of safety net for the Indian students more than these countries like the US, your neighbor, or Australia?
Well, I think that the Canadian ecosystem is, as I mentioned before, safe, diverse, and very tolerant. We don't have those type of incidences occurring. Same thing if we look at our neighbor to the south, the idea of violence and access to guns and things like that. That's not a Canadian problem at all.
That's not a Canadian concept. So lastly, I just wanted to ask you about your visits to the universities here in India as well. You went to JMI, which is Jamia Millia Islamia. You went to Ahmedabad University, and you also have visited TERI. So what has come out of your interactions with them?
So I think the first thing is an engagement at sort of understanding each other and looking at the possibilities for collaboration. Now, whether that collaboration is faculty exchanges, it could be student exchanges, it could be joint degree programs. We're in the early stages, but I think there's going to be future collaboration on the research side, and having those students, that mobility for students to move from one university to another university, from country to country, they're going to make amazing people, and they're going to change the world.
I would also like to ask you, is there a possibility of Windsor wanting to open an offshore campus and tie up with the university in India right now? Because that is something that India is also looking to facilitate, a lot more foreign universities to come into the Indian subcontinent.
You know, that's a great question, and something that the University of Windsor is exploring. Transnational education, it provides the opportunity for us to carry out our mission, which is to educate students by taking our education to India. The changes in the education policy, opening the door to offshore campuses here, what we see at Gift City and many others, is something that we want to look at too. We recognize that only a small percentage of Indian students have the means to be able to go abroad, and we want to be able to help support all those others that can't. So now just kind of looking at feasibility, what type of model that might look like, who potential partners could be. As Dr. Van Heist mentioned, the tours and visits that we've been having here, that's setting the roadmap for what potential collaboration could be, potentially in the area of EV, sustainability, mechanical, automotive, things that Windsor does very well, that we think we could add value to the Indian educational ecosystem.
All right, so you're saying it could be on the anvil, but of course things have not been decided yet, and certainly for the Indian students wanting to study engineering in India or abroad, especially in Canada, this could be a good opportunity. Of course, there are other policies that are in place for, offshore campuses in the Indian subcontinent as well. And as perhaps Dr. Chris, as well as the Dean, Mr. Heist, has explained to us, that could also be a possibility for students who are looking to study good quality engineering courses in Windsor University in Canada. With Nasir Khan, Milan Sharma for India Today.